So a movie I saw in the theater, I think the week it came out, I'm not sure if it's in theaters anymore, but the way things work now is there's usually not a long wait to see these things on demand and on the streaming services. This is Pearl, the prequel to Ty West's movie X from, I guess it was just last year. These movies were shot, I think, simultaneously or back to back or something like that. And Pearl tells the story of a character from the movie X. In the movie X, I'm not going to get too far into this, but the movie X takes place in the early 70s, and a group of adult filmmakers rent some cabin somewhere in rural Texas, I believe, to shoot an adult film or two or three. And they interact with the people, the elderly owners of the property, and not everything goes well. So in X, Mia Goth plays one of the porn actors, and she also plays, this isn't really a spoiler, she also plays the old woman who owns or co-owns the property. Pearl takes that old woman character, and we flash back many, many years to, I think, probably the 1920s or 30s, early part of the 20th century, and we see the Pearl character as a young woman coming of age, growing up on this same farm that you see in X, and how she is treated by others, and how that behavior in others, or something that's deep-seated within her own psyche, develops and turns her into something different. So let's just say that. So I saw X. X was a very much, see, it looks, this. Sorry if I keep doing this. Hair's a little bit longer now and doesn't want to stay in place. And when it falls in front of me, it looks like I've got male pattern baldness, which I don't. So X, I didn't really care for. X was very, very popular with a lot of people, and I watched it, and I'm just like, it feels like it's exploiting the fear or disgust of old people as its horror element, and I didn't like that. And it just reminded me of older, better movies that I would have preferred to see, mostly Tobe Hooper films. So when there was a trailer for the very end credits of X, there was a little trailer for Pearl, and it almost looked like a joke, but I was like, wow, this is a joke. They shot a lot for this. And then it turned out that no, there actually is another film coming. Pearl comes out, and wow, I really liked this. I thought this was really good. Mia Goth is fabulous in this film. I haven't seen her in a lot, but this is like, I'm not saying every time somebody does a good performance, they deserve an award, but if you were to give an award for a horror film this year, acting-wise, Pearl would be in the running. There's a sequence toward the end where Mia Goth has a bit of a monologue, and you also watch her face under the end credits, and that is some masterful work. So again, Pearl is this young girl, this young farm girl who dreams of something better. Her husband is off fighting in World War I, and she's a young woman who has desires and hopes and dreams, and the situation of her family keeps her locked on the farm. And how that works on her psyche and leads to extreme behavior is what Pearl is about. It's really well done. I mean, it can't have cost a heck of a lot to do, but it's gorgeous to look at. You're really only looking at a few locations. You're looking at the farm, you're looking at some locations in a small town, and that's about it. A lot of the interiors of the farmhouse. It looks gorgeous. Small cast is all good, and it's really good. Like, to me, you don't need to have seen X for Pearl to make any sense whatsoever, because it takes place beforehand. There's no, maybe watching Pearl gives you a little bit more insight into the character when you think back about X, or if you watch it again, but my recommendation would be to watch Pearl and don't even bother with X. Now, at the end of Pearl, there is another post-credits tag that is a little teaser for another film that is coming that looks like it's set probably in the 80s or 90s, that seems to be that it's probably about one of the characters related to X. I don't remember X well enough, so it might again be the Mia Goth character. One of the characters in X, in her life in 80s, in probably the porn world of 80s LA. So that's apparently on the way coming. But Pearl was probably the best horror film I've seen in 2022. Certainly one of them. Really well done. I don't want to say, I don't like to give spoilers in these, so sometimes there's not a lot to say in these reviews of great deep substance other than you should see this or you shouldn't. But Pearl was a really, really nice surprise. I went in, again, having not liked X, I went in saying, at least this is going to be something different. It can't be the same thing that X was. And it was very different. It was a character piece. It was a character study. It was you watching this person kind of unravel slowly over the course of the film. And it wasn't necessarily a perfectly well-adjusted person unraveling. It was a person who probably had the seeds there, and these events in their life threw a lot of miracle grow on those seeds to make her what she became. But really, really kind of highly recommend this as like an indie horror thing. Remember, there's horror here coming, so it would work as a regular drama too, but when the horror stuff happens, it's kind of horrifying. So the average viewer might be repulsed, or they may want to shut it off based on that. But if you're a horror fan with patience who likes art house horror, it's a bit more character and dialogue than it is stalking and slashing, I would pretty highly recommend Pearl.